The farmhouse, with its whitewashed walls gleaming under the summer sun and ivy creeping up its sides like tender fingers, stood as a silent testament to a bygone era. Emma and Alex, standing at the threshold, couldn't help but marvel at the quaint beauty of their new home, with its promise of peace and a fresh start. "It's perfect, Alex," Emma whispered, her voice laced with a hopeful tremor, as they stepped over the ancient welcome mat, its threads worn by countless previous inhabitants. Inside, the air held a stillness, a quiet so profound it seemed to muffle their footsteps, absorbing the sound into the aged wooden floorboards that creaked softly under their weight. "It's like stepping into another time," Alex remarked, trailing his fingers over a mantelpiece where dust danced in the slanting beams of light. Laughter echoed through the empty rooms as they explored, their voices disturbing the silence that had long reigned. It was in the midst of this laughter that they first heard it, a soft, muffled crying that seemed to seep out from beneath the floorboards, fleeting yet unmistakable. They paused, exchanging a puzzled glance. "Must be the wind," Alex said after a moment, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. As night draped its cloak over the farmhouse, the couple nestled into the creaking embrace of their new bed, the day's discoveries a whirl in their minds. But sleep proved elusive, for the crying beneath the floorboards returned, this time louder, more insistent, as if the house itself were lamenting its long-held secrets. In the thick darkness, the sound twisted and turned, weaving into their dreams until it was no longer possible to tell where reality ended and nightmares began. "Do you hear that, Emma?" Alex's voice was barely a whisper, tinged with a fear that sent a chill down Emma's spine, echoing the cold dread that something or someone had been waiting for them beneath the floorboards all along. The days peeled away like the farmhouse's flaking paint, each one revealing layers of unease. Emma found herself tracing the grain of the wooden floorboards, as if the answer to the nocturnal weeping lay hidden in their knots and whorls. "Look at this," she called to Alex, her finger resting on a board slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness peeking through. With hesitant curiosity, they pried it open to find a locket, its chain tangled, encasing a photograph of a child with hollow eyes that seemed to follow them, and a series of letters, yellowed with age, recounting a tale of loss and longing so palpable it left the air heavy with sorrow. The whispers of the past grew louder, urging Emma and Alex to seek out the elders of the town, whose memories were as interwoven with the farmhouse as the ivy on its walls. In the dim light of the local tavern, over glasses of amber liquid that quivered with each revelation, they listened to stories of a child who vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void filled with whispered accusations and a family torn asunder. "They never did find little Samuel," murmured the bartender, his voice a blend of fear and pity. "Some say he's still looking for his way home." The words hung between Emma and Alex, a specter of despair that followed them back to the farmhouse, where the crying beneath the floorboards seemed now to carry the weight of a name. As autumn's chill encroached, wrapping the farmhouse in a shroud of mist, the boundary between the living and the lost blurred. Emma and Alex found themselves caught in a web of shadowy half-truths. The child's cries a constant companion that frayed their nerves and fueled their obsession. One night, driven by a desperate need for silence, they tore up the floorboards, revealing not the solid earth they expected, but a hidden cellar, swallowed by darkness. Descending the creaking steps, they found themselves in a room untouched by time, where a child's faded drawings covered the walls, and a small bed lay empty, its sheets molded with age. And there, in the dust, lay a single small shoe, its mate presumably still wandering, seeking its owner. The realization that they were not alone, that the house held more than just memories, was a silent scream in the dark, chilling them to the bone. In the heart of the night, beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, the house seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Emma and Alex, hands clasped, descended further into the bowels of the cellar, where the air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and old secrets. The crying had led them here, to a corner shrouded in darkness, so complete it seemed to swallow the beam of their flashlight. "There's something here," Emma's voice trembled, a soft declaration in the oppressive silence. Together, they cleared away the layers of time, uncovering an old, dust-covered trunk. The lock gave way with a reluctant click, revealing inside a tattered teddy bear and a diary, its pages filled with a child's scrawl, narrating a tale of loneliness and fear. The words on the pages whispered into the silence, each sentence a thread in the fabric of the house's sorrow. As they read, the air around them grew colder, the shadows deeper. "I just want to go outside," read Alex, his voice breaking the spell. It was then they heard it, a soft sobbing, not from beneath the floorboards, but standing right beside them. Turning, they saw nothing but the dense blackness of the cellar. Yet the sensation of being watched, of a presence lingering just out of sight, clawed at their nerves, a palpable dread that filled the room with the echoes of a child's longing. The diary ended abruptly, its final pages a scramble of frantic scribbles, as if the pen had been guided by a hand driven to madness by solitude and despair. As they closed the book, a chilling realization washed over them. The crying had ceased, replaced by a silence so profound it was as if the house itself was holding its breath. Then, from the shadows, a small, whispered voice, filled with a yearning so intense it pierced the veil of time. "Will you stay and play with me?" The question, innocent yet unnerving, hung in the air, a spectral plea that tethered them to the spot, frozen. In that moment, Emma and Alex understood the true nature of their home, a sanctuary turned prison for a soul that could not leave, and now, perhaps, neither could they. In the days that followed, the farmhouse seemed to settle into a quiet unlike before, a silence that was almost expectant. Emma and Alex moved through the rooms with a newfound caution, the air around them charged with an unspoken agreement to never mention the voice from the cellar. Yet, the echo of that plea, "Will you stay and play with me?" lingered in every corner, a haunting refrain that threaded through their daily lives. At night, they lay awake, listening to the house's old bones creak and groan, as if communicating in a language all its own. "It feels like we're being watched," Emma confessed one evening, her voice a whisper against the backdrop of the night's oppressive silence. Alex reached for her hand, his grasp a lifeline in the darkness. Yet he said nothing, his own fears a heavy shadow between them. The tension grew, a tangible presence that fed on their unease and whispered doubts. They attempted to contact experts in the supernatural, desperate for a solution, but their calls went unanswered, as if the farmhouse itself was sabotaging their efforts. The locals, too, seemed to shun them, their eyes filled with a mix of pity and fear. "We're alone in this," Alex finally said, a defeat in his voice that chilled Emma more than the child's spectral sobs ever could. It was then they found the drawings, not in the cellar, but on the walls of their bedroom, crude depictions of a family holding hands, beneath which was scrawled, in a childlike hand, "Now you'll never leave." The realization that they had become part of the house's history, entwined in its tragic tapestry, was a silent scream that echoed through the empty halls, leaving them isolated in their haunted haven, prisoners of a past that wasn't theirs, but now held them in an unbreakable grip. The seasons turned, their passage marked only by the changing light through the farmhouse's dusty windows. Inside, Emma and Alex had learned to live with the presence that shared their home, a silent truce formed out of necessity. The drawings on the walls had multiplied, a gallery of silent witnesses to their new life. "We can't leave, can we?" Emma asked one crisp morning, her voice resigned, as she traced a finger over a new drawing, a house with 3 figures standing outside. "No, I don't think we can," Alex replied, his eyes not meeting hers, focusing instead on a leaf caught in the wind outside, a symbol of freedom they no longer possessed. On an evening bathed in the soft glow of twilight, they found themselves in the garden, the air heavy with the scent of wildflowers, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere within. "It's beautiful out here," Emma said, a note of sorrow in her voice. "I almost forgot." But the beauty of the scene was marred by the sight of the house looming behind them, its windows like dark eyes watching. It was then they heard it, not the cry of a child, but laughter, light and carefree, drifting from the direction of the cellar. The sound was not menacing, but it was a reminder of their entwined fates, a bond forged by unseen hands. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Emma and Alex turned back to the house, its silhouette a dark reminder of their imprisonment. They understood now. The farmhouse didn't just need occupants. It needed a family, and in their desperation to escape its clutches, they had become just that. The realization was a cold embrace, tightening around them as they crossed the threshold, the laughter still echoing in their ears. And so, they accepted their roles, guardians of a memory, keepers of a spirit that sought only to belong. The final twist of their tale was a simple, chilling truth. The house had not trapped them. They had trapped themselves, woven into the fabric of its history, destined to be part of its legacy forever.